Alright guys, what's the crack? I am going to do one more video before I head to bed. It's getting pretty late, but in this video I want to talk about the kind of overtraining debate in the GAA and the injury debate in GAA, and our players being like way overtrained and not given enough time to recover, and why we're having so many injuries, and all these operations and all this kind of that kind of talk. And I just want to give, I suppose, my point of view on it as a physiotherapist and as a GAA player as well. So the major issue that I see within GAA is the control of workload. And talk to any physiotherapist and the word workload is probably the strongest correlator between risk of injury for any athlete. So quite simply, if you are a couch potato and you decide one day, I'm going to get up and I'm just going to go out and I'm going to run a marathon, I can guarantee you're going to get injured, or you'll eventually just stop. You won't do the marathon, you won't finish it because something will break down somewhere and it'll force you to stop. So that's a very easy thing to understand. And how does that apply to GAA? I'm going to break it into two categories of individuals. One person is a kid that has played sport all of his life and really loves sport, always trained 5-6 nights a week. When they got a little bit older, they started getting into the gym, started doing a lot of gym work, really kind of focused on looking after their body, making sure they were sleeping enough, making sure they were eating properly, educated themselves on proper nutrition, and is playing with their club team, training 3-4 nights a week, playing games on the weekends, also doing a little bit of gym work on top of it, and making sure that they're in good nick. So they're keeping their fitness pretty high. They have a good bit of muscle mass in their body from the gym work they've done over the years. Now they get introduced into inter-county team, and the total workload doesn't go up that much. They're used to pushing themselves fairly hard, they're used to looking after their sleep, they're used to looking after their nutrition, and they're able to manage their transition from a club team to an inter-county team. And it's this transition between club and inter-county that is probably the biggest time point where you hear about injuries in the media. You don't really hear about injuries in Junior B because it's not covered in the media. But there's kind of another area of like a lot of injuries. So basically the two time points we're talking about are that first one I mentioned, which was the club player transitioning to inter-county training and going through like inter-county pre-season and being really broken down, or a fringe inter-county player being really broken down with the workload within inter-county. And then there's the Junior B side of things, which I'll just talk about at the end. So that first player that I mentioned, really good progressive increase in workload over a period of years, gets introduced into county training. Again, it's another step up in the total workload, but well able to manage it because he's progressed over time. Take another player then that's been like performing really well with his club. Obviously loves hurling or football, very skill-based player. Physical attributes mightn't be all there because he hasn't spent the time in the gym over the years, or hasn't spent the time looking after his nutrition, or isn't recovering properly because maybe he likes to have a few pints, he's a student and has a social life. So that player now gets introduced to an inter-county setup, and there's a lot more expectation with an inter-county setup. You're training a lot more often than your club team, and you're training with a lot more intensity than the club team. You're also in the gym, and usually you're kind of forced to do at least 2 gym sessions per week, and a lot of inter-county fellas that start off might not be used to that. So all of a sudden you're almost like your couch potato and you're going from zero to hero, and you're expecting your body to be able to deal with that. And a lot of people can, a lot of people get it right because they'll do 2 major things. They look after their sleep and they look after nutrition. But the guy that comes into that setup and doesn't really have much of an interest in the gym, isn't on board with the nutrition side of things, or maybe the setup that he's in doesn't have any nutritional input, and is also at college, wants to try and do both, live the college lifestyle, have a few beers, stay up late at night, get 5-6 hours sleep a night. That's the player that's probably going to pick up the injury and be the guy that struggles with the transition from club to inter-county. Now, there's no getting away from the fact that GAA, both hurling and football, is becoming way more physical, and the physical requirements to be on an inter-county team and to perform at the highest level is far higher. Whether you're playing with a Division 4 team or a Division 1 team, the physical requirements now versus 5 years ago are far higher for all the levels. So quite simply, you can't just rely on skill anymore to get into an inter-county setup. Not that you could require just skill anyway in the past, but you know, the physical stuff is a lot more important. There's a lot more emphasis put on it nowadays. So there's my kind of first argument. Total workload. Player that's able to handle the total workload is the player that has been slowly increasing his workload over a period of years. He's the player that's doing stuff in the off season, gymming in the off season, getting his body strong, building muscle mass, and you know, improving his conditioning, looking after himself in nutrition, and looking after himself in terms of recovery, in particular sleep and stress levels. The other player that isn't doing any additional work in the off season, isn't looking after his nutrition, isn't looking after his stress levels or his sleep, that's the guy that's probably going to struggle with the increased workload, and you know, is going to be at more risk of injury. And there's a big opportunity there in that, you know, the difference between those two people. There's a big opportunity there for anyone watching this content, or you know, anyone who's really interested in GAA. First of all, the three things I touched on. Nutrition, so educating yourself on nutrition. You know, what you put in your mouth is totally up to you, so like, you have to make those decisions, you have to be smart about it. There's nobody going to stand over you and hand you exactly what you're supposed to be eating, so you know, that's up to you. You can control that. Sleep and stress, you know, this goes back to the first video when I said that it's a young men's game. It's a game of teachers and students. It's slowly transitioning away from that now though over the last few years, because particularly with the likes of Dublin, basically if you're good enough and you're working with a company that is willing to give you time off work so that you can train, then obviously you don't need to be a student or a teacher, because your company's giving you time off anyway to go train. So you're allowed to recover better and sleep more and train a little bit more often. So first of all, get your nutrition on point. Second of all, check your sleep, check your stress levels. It's going to be very difficult to be the best player you can be if you're also working 50 hours a week in a really stressful job and getting very little sleep. So again, we're coming back to the very first video where we talked about time and more or less your commitment to this. Third thing is, what are you doing with your spare time? What are you doing in the off season? I know if you're watching this video, you're probably gymming for most of the year, but in your off season, when you've got the time to catch up, are you actually catching up? So a lot of fellas, when they finish with their club, finish with their county, they'll take a break and they'll do nothing for 2-3 months. But that's the time where you can catch up, because everyone else is taking a break, or most people are taking a break. So spend that time catching up. Spend that time rehabbing an injury that you have. Spend that time getting stronger. Spend that time improving your balance, improving your flexibility. A lot of people with injuries, like say a hamstring injury, they think, oh, let me just get through the season now, and they get to the end of the season and they think to themselves, great, give my hamstring 2 months of total rest, I'll be absolutely flying in for next year, I have no problems with it. That is the complete opposite of what you want to do. You actually want to spend that 2 months building up the tolerance of that hamstring. So you want to increase the amount of work that you're doing in your hamstring, build the strength of the hamstring so that it itself is better prepared for the season to come. It's a stronger muscle, it's got more muscle mass, and as a result there's less risk of injury. So there's my take on kind of, I suppose, the most prevalent time period of injuries within the GAA. The other time period that I mentioned was the whole junior B kind of side of things, and this doesn't necessarily apply to junior B, but basically the player that kind of shows up once a month to play a game for the junior B team or for the intermediate team, and they've done literally nothing since, but they play the whole match because, you know, they have a lot of skill, or you're short on numbers, or you know, everyone else that's playing the game hasn't really played either for the last couple of months. So you're basically going from zero literally to playing a full-on match. You've done nothing for weeks, you go into a game, and the one thing that gets you through the game is adrenaline. This happens, athletes, in every single sport, every single level. When you come back from injury, that first game that you play, the adrenaline is high, you don't feel any aches or niggles or pains during it, but afterwards there is potential there for you to be completely broken up. you're at massive risk of injury. You're at risk of overuse injuries, tendinopathies. You're at risk of straining a muscle. If you're playing a match and you're absolutely knackered during the game, of course you're at more risk of picking up any kind of an injury, whether it's, you know, a sprain or a strain, or, you know, a dead leg, or you fall clumsily into a tackle, or you lose your balance or coordination and you go over an ankle. But hopefully nobody's in that category, because, you know, it's good for people to keep their health and their fitness as a priority and keep yourself fit all year round, and, you know, be doing your bit of gym work all year round, and be doing your little bit of conditioning all year round. So the big two are that total workload. We want to build that up gradually, and that's the first one. Second one is we don't want to go from 0 to running a marathon straight away like some people do in junior B, which is the exact same thing as, you know, a progressive increase in your workload. Taking into consideration things like sleep, stress, nutrition, and what are you doing with that extra time that you have? Are you spending the off season making sure that the muscles or the joints that you injured the previous year are staying strong, and you're getting your body ready for the workload that it's about to go through for the coming year? And there's a very simple old saying that everyone knows: if you don't use it, you lose it. You could literally be in the Olympics one year, but if you literally do nothing for the year, literally lie in bed for a month, for 2 months, if you lie in bed for 2 months, you wouldn't make the junior B team, because your body deteriorates that quickly with a lack of activity. So make sure you enjoy yourself and keep the exercise going all year round. That's the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments about this video, you can leave them in the comment section below. I want to thank you for watching the video. I will see you in the next one. Slán. Time for me to go to bed.